The diner's hum of voices cut off the moment a wealthy man in his 40s slammed his hand on the table and grabbed the waitress's wrist. The tray rattled, silverware crashing to the floor. She froze, eyes wide, breath stuck in her throat, while the other customers looked away. No one moved. No one dared. Until a single dad veteran in his late 30s rose from his booth. Broad-shouldered, steady, his presence silenced the room like a knife through smoke. He stepped between them, his voice a low growl. Let her go. And that's when the waitress leaned in, trembling, and whispered words that made him freeze. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. Jack Turner had seen enough battles to recognize one in the making. The diner smelled of fried onions and burnt coffee, but the stench of arrogance radiating from the wealthy man was stronger. Jack's eyes, sharp and weathered from years in uniform, locked on the man's grip, crushing the waitress's wrist. "Sir, you don't want to do this," Jack said, calm but firm, his stance unshakable. The rich man sneered, his expensive watch glinting beneath the harsh overhead lights. "Stay out of it, soldier boy. This doesn't concern you." But Jack's jaw tightened. Every instinct told him it did. The waitress, her name tag read Sophie, stood frozen, her face pale, lips trembling. She looked no older than 25, her apron stained from a long shift, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. Jack shifted his weight forward, his presence radiating quiet authority. "It concerns me when a man with money thinks he can own someone else's body." The room grew tense. The other customers lowered their eyes into coffee cups, pretending not to see. But Sophie's gaze flicked up, landing on Jack's scarred face. For a moment, hope flickered in her eyes. And then, she whispered, so softly, only Jack could hear. "Jack, I know you." His breath hitched. He didn't recognize her, yet the tremor in her voice struck him deep. He held her stare, confusion swirling inside him. The rich man scoffed, shoving Sophie's wrist away with mock disgust. "Pathetic. Keep your charity case. She's not worth my time." He tossed a few bills onto the table like scraps for a stray dog and stormed out, the door's bell clanging hard in his wake. Jack turned instantly to Sophie. "You okay?" His tone softened, dropping the edge. Her eyes watered, not from the grip but from something else, something buried deeper. "You don't remember me, do you?" she whispered. Jack's brows furrowed. "Should I?" Her hands shook as she picked up the fallen silverware, her voice breaking. "Years ago, you saved me, but I never got to thank you." The diner seemed to shrink around them, the air heavy with something unspoken. Jack's chest tightened. He didn't know what she meant, but he saw the truth in her trembling eyes. And beneath the weight of that moment, he realized this night wasn't just about stepping between a waitress and a rich man. It was about something much deeper, something that had been waiting years to surface. The bell over the door was still vibrating when the manager finally breathed again. People started talking all at once, pretending nothing had happened, but the air hadn't settled. Not for Jack, not for Sophie. "Come on," he said gently. "Let's get some ice on that wrist." She nodded. He guided her away from the floor traffic toward a tiny service nook near the pie case. Fluorescent light buzzed overhead. He wrapped a handful of ice in a bar towel and handed it over. Sophie pressed the cold against her skin and winced, then looked up at him like she was debating whether to jump into deep water. "I meant it," she whispered. "You saved me." Jack leaned on the stainless counter. "Help me out, Sophie. I've been a lot of places I'd rather forget." Her lip trembled, then steadied. "You were at the VA grocery drive 2 summers ago, outside the community center on Delaney." She swallowed. "I was the girl with the red backpack arguing with the cashier because my card declined. I had a black eye. You didn't ask why. You just paid for my groceries and said, 'Eat first, make decisions after.' Then you walked me to the bus stop and waited until I got on." A memory unlocked. Blistering heat on concrete, the smell of diesel, a line of folding tables stacked with boxed pasta and canned peaches. A girl hiding behind her hair, trying to look invisible. Jack remembered the way she kept saying, "I'm fine," like a reflex that hurt to say. "I didn't put it together," he said, voice rough. "Why would you?" She tried to smile. "You do that sort of thing for strangers." "Not strangers," he said. "Neighbors." Her eyes glossed. She looked down quickly. The black eye wasn't random. I was with someone back then. Someone who believed money equals control. Today's customer? Same country club, same circle. She moved the ice pack, a faint crescent of purple already blossoming beneath the skin. "I thought I left that world behind." Jack felt anger rise. Not the explosive kind, but the steady flame that wants to build something better than what it burns. "You did," he said. "You're here. You're working. That matters." Sophie stared past him, into the mirror finish of the coffee urn. "It's not just me." She took a breath. "I've been sending half my tips to my mom's motel room, helping her get through a separation. My little brother's with her. I can't lose this job." "You won't," Jack said, like a promise. As if summoned, the manager, Paula, 40s, tired but kind, stepped into the nook. "Sophie, you okay?" "Jack, thank you for whatever that was." Her gaze softened when she saw the ice. "You want to file an incident report? We have cameras?" Sophie tensed. "If that gets back to him, he'll make it messy." Paula crossed her arms. "He's already messy, sweetheart. But we'll do it your way. You're not alone here." Something unclenched in Sophie's face. Jack watched it happen, that small recalibration that turns panic into plan. He felt it in himself too, a familiar click from his service days. Identify the objective, stabilize the scene, move people to safe ground. "Let me cover her tables," Jack said. Paula blinked. "You're a customer." "Former waiter," he said with a ghost of a grin. "Army taught me how to carry 5 plates with one hand." Paula waited, then nodded. "Fine. Apron's in the drawer. Health code says I have to make you wash your hands like you committed a crime." "Fair," Jack said, already rolling up his sleeves. For the next hour, the diner ran on a different kind of energy. Jack moved between booths with quiet efficiency, refilling drinks, apologizing for delays with a smile that turned annoyance into generosity. Sophie reset herself. Hair tightened, posture straightened, eyes clearer. Every time Jack passed, she met his glance with the smallest nod. Still here, still steady. On his third lap, a teenage busboy named Julio bumped a tray and sent a chocolate shake sliding. Jack snatched the glass mid-fall, set it upright, and winked. Happens to the best. Julio's shoulders dropped, relief flushing his cheeks. It was small, but kindness ripples. Tips started doubling. Someone at the counter left a note. "Thanks for stepping in." Someone else paid for the table behind them. A little girl offered Sophie a sticker from a sheet of stars. Sophie pressed the star to her name tag like armor. When the rush finally eased, Paula shooed Sophie to the back office to fill out a brief statement, nothing that would put her at risk, just enough to protect the staff. Jack washed his hands again and slid back into his booth. His phone buzzed. A text from his daughter's school. Reminder, field day volunteers needed Friday. We're short 3 parents for the obstacle course. Jack stared at it for a long second. He wanted to be there. He'd promised himself he'd stop missing the small stuff now that things were stabilizing. But he was still picking up odd construction jobs, stretching dollars like they had bungee cords. He typed back, "I'm in. Tell me when to show up. Decision first, budget later." He'd figure it out. Sophie reappeared, hair loosened now, the defiant line of her chin back in place. She sat across from him without asking, like they'd known each other longer than a handful of hours. "Thank you," she said. "For then and for now." "You did the hard part," Jack said. "You came back to work." She glanced toward the door where the rich customer had left. "He's part of a group that comes in once a month after their charity golf games. They tip big, but they treat people like props. Then we replace them," Jack said simply. "With who?" She laughed once, without humor. "The diner's been bleeding regulars since the highway exit changed." Jack thought for a beat. What if the community center hosted their family night here? You'd get a guaranteed crowd twice a month. Paula could offer a discount for kids' meals funded by local sponsors. Churches, the Firehouse Auxiliary, the VFW. Sophie tilted her head. "You're building a logistics chain out of meatloaf." "Been called worse," he deadpanned, and she grinned despite herself. He pulled out a napkin and started sketching. Boxes for partners, arrows for flow, a note that read, "Prepay vouchers, yours dignity." He explained it as he went. No fancy talk, just common sense. Sponsors buy meal vouchers in bulk. Vouchers get printed with a simple code. Families use them like cash. No performance, no pleading. The diner wins steady revenue. Sponsors look good for actually helping people. And nobody has to rely on men like our friend from the country club. Sophie watched the lines become a plan. Something warm moved behind her eyes. "This would work," she said softly. "It can," Jack said. "But we need buy-in. I can talk to the VFW this week. They know me. If they lead, others follow." Her gaze slid to his hands, broad, scarred, capable. "You're always building bridges, aren't you?" "Or at least guardrails," he said. "Keeps people from going over the edge." Sophie's phone buzzed. She checked it, and Jack saw her knuckles whiten. She turned the screen so only he could see. A text from an unknown number. "You made a scene. Consider your mother's motel arrangement temporary. No threat spelled out, none needed." Sophie's breath hitched. "He knows about my mom. He'll use anything." Jack's voice dropped a register. "Then we document everything. Keep the text. Forward it to a trusted friend so there's a timestamp off your device. Paula can notarize a printout tomorrow, and we move your mom and brother somewhere he can't touch tonight." Sophie blinked. "Tonight?" "Tonight," Jack said. "I've got a truck with a half tank and a buddy who runs a church shelter that doesn't ask questions. Private rooms, week to week. It's not fancy, but it's safe. We'll be in and out before midnight." Sophie stared at him like he'd offered her a new language. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he said. "And you already know me." She covered her mouth with her hand, steadying herself. When she lowered it, her eyes were fierce. "Okay, let's do it." Paula returned with 2 paper cups. "Fresh coffee on the house for my 2 crisis managers." She set them down, then squeezed Sophie's shoulder. "Take your break. Jack, what you drew there, mind if I take a photo? I've been begging for a way to make Tuesday nights less empty." "Take it," he said, sliding the napkin over. "It's better in your hands." "Noted," Paula said, snapping a picture. "And Sophie, clock out early if you need. We'll cover." Sophie stood. I'll finish one more round and then I'm done. When she left, Paula lingered. You really think sponsors will buy family vouchers? Parents will. Veterans will. Anyone who's been in a tight spot will, Jack said. It's not charity if it preserves pride. It's community. Paula's eyes shone. You've got a gift for making hard things simple. Parenting does that to you, he said. So does surviving. By closing time, the plan was in motion. Jack cleared the last plates, left a tip big enough to embarrass himself, and met Sophie by the door. She changed into a hoodie, the name tag tucked into her pocket, the napkin plan carefully folded into her wallet like a lifeline. The night air outside was cool and clean. Jack's old pickup sat beneath a flickering street lamp, paint dull but engine stubborn. He opened the passenger door for her. Seatbelt, he said, habit masquerading as humor. She climbed in, clutching her phone, and exhaled a long, shaky breath. I hate that he still scares me. Fear's a good sensor, Jack said, starting the engine. It's not a steering wheel. They drove across town past shuttered storefronts and sleepy porches. Sophie pointed the way to the motel, a long, low building with a buzzing vacancy sign. She tensed when they turned in. Text your mom, Jack said. Tell her you're outside. Have her pack only essentials. I'll take the bags. Sophie nodded and typed fast. A minute later, a door opened. A woman in her 50s stepped out with a small boy huddled behind her. The woman looked wary until she recognized her daughter. Then she sagged with relief. Sophie. Mom, Sophie breathed, hugging her. This is Jack. He's helping us. Jack lifted the first bag. Ma'am. The boy peered at him. Jack crouched so they were eye level. You like trucks? He asked. The kid nodded. You want to be in charge of the tailgate latch? Jack said, voice solemn. It's a big job. The boy brightened and followed him. Small dignity, borrowed confidence. They matter as much as locks. They packed fast and quiet. Within 15 minutes, they were back on the road, headed for the church shelter on Maple, an old brick building with warm light in the windows and a hand-painted sign, Welcome. No questions, just coffee. Jack parked and jogged up the steps to buzz the night bell. His friend, Pastor Ray, silver-beard, baseball cap, the steady kindness of a man who's seen storms, opened the door and took in the scene. Jack, Ray said, you bring me good people? Best kind, Jack said. Ray's eyes landed on Sophie's mom and the boy. Come in out of the cold, he said. Rooms are clean and quiet. We'll sort the rest in the morning. Sophie squeezed Jack's arm as they followed Ray inside. It was brief, a pulse of gratitude and trust, and he felt it like a steadying hand on a ladder. Paperwork took 10 minutes. Keys exchanged hands. The boy yawned huge, then saluted Jack with both hands as if returning a secret code. Jack saluted back, grinning. Outside, beneath the church's soft porch light, Sophie turned to him. If you hadn't stepped in at the diner, you would have handled it, he said. I just accelerated the timeline. She laughed, the first true laugh of the night. Then her face sobered. That text, he won't stop. Then we don't either, Jack said. Tomorrow I'll talk to the VFW about those vouchers. Then I'm calling a legal aid clinic I know. If he or his buddies try anything, we make it public, the right way, within the law. You get to keep living without looking over your shoulder. Sophie looked toward the warm windows where her family was settling. I want more than surviving, she said. I want to build something that doesn't break when men like him push. Jack nodded toward the napkin peeking from her wallet. Then we start with dinner. She tucked the napkin deeper, like a vow. Dinner, then dignity, Then the rest. Jack opened the truck door for her again. "I'll get you home." As they pulled away, Sophie rested her forehead against the cool glass, watching the church shrink in the side mirror. "Jack," she said, voice small but steady. "When I whispered at the diner, 'I know you,' I meant more than the grocery line. I meant the way you stand. You don't lean on fear. You lean on purpose." He considered that, the road unfolding in the headlights, like a long, honest conversation. "Purpose is the only thing I can carry that never gets heavy," he said. Sophie smiled, a quiet shape in the dark cab. "Then let's make it our weapon." "Not a weapon," he said, a hint of warmth in his tone. "A lighthouse." "Fine," she said, a spark returning to her voice. "Let's light up the whole coast." And for the first time in years, Jack believed it wasn't just wishful thinking. It was a plan. It was already happening. The morning sun broke over the horizon with a tired glow, painting the streets in faded gold. Jack's old pickup rumbled into the diner's lot once more. He hadn't planned on coming back this early, but something in him knew Sophie would be there, apron tied tight, pretending nothing had changed. She was. Through the window, he saw her balancing a tray of coffee cups, moving with practiced ease. But her eyes carried the weight of last night's motel evacuation. She was holding steady, but only barely. Jack pushed inside. The bell chimed, and Sophie froze mid-step. Then, just as quickly, she forced a smile. "You didn't have to come back," she said, placing the tray down. "I told you," Jack replied, sliding into a booth. "We don't stop." She exhaled, sat across from him, and pulled the folded napkin out of her apron pocket. The lines he'd sketched now looked less like doodles, more like a blueprint for something real. "I called my mom this morning," she said. "They're safe. The shelter set them up with food vouchers and clothes. The boy's already playing with other kids." She paused, her throat tightening. "You gave him more than safety last night. You gave him a piece of normal." Jack's jaw flexed. He wasn't good with speeches about kindness. To him, doing what was right wasn't charity. It was duty. But hearing it reflected back in her voice, it carried weight he hadn't expected. Before he could answer, Paula appeared with a pot of coffee and 2 mugs. She poured without asking, then slid a small envelope across the table. "This came for you, Sophie. Delivered by some courier in a suit. No return address." Sophie's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single piece of cream paper, typed, no signature. "You embarrassed me. That was your last shift. Consider yourself blacklisted from every establishment that matters in this town." Her face drained. He's pulling strings already." Jack picked up the paper, scanned it, and slid it back. Fear tactics. Empty threats dressed in expensive stationery. "It's not empty," Sophie whispered. "He knows people. He'll spread my name like poison." Jack leaned forward, his tone firm, eyes unwavering. "Then we beat him the way men like him can't stand." Out loud, "He thrives in shadows, Sophie. You drag him into the light, he shrivels." Paula crossed her arms. "I'll testify if it comes to it. The whole place saw what happened." "But no one will say they did," Sophie muttered bitterly. "People protect money, not truth." Jack studied her, then reached into his wallet. He pulled out an old military patch, frayed at the edges, the emblem almost faded. He placed it in front of her. "When I got out," he said slowly, "this patch meant I was part of something bigger than myself. Even when everything else fell apart, this meant I wasn't standing alone. You've got that now. You have me, and you'll have more." We start with the VFW tonight. Her eyes lingered on the patch. For a moment, she let herself believe him. That evening, the VFW hall buzzed with conversation, the scent of chili and old wood varnish filling the air. Men and women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s gathered around long tables, cups of black coffee in hand. Jack stood at the front with Sophie beside him. She was pale, nervous, her fingers tightening on the napkin plan. Jack cleared his throat. "Folks, I'm not here to talk about war stories. I'm here because we've got neighbors falling through cracks. You all know it. You see it at the food drives, the shelters, the quiet goodbyes when families move because rent hikes choke them out." He pointed to the napkin Sophie held. "We've got a plan to fix part of it. Family meal vouchers. Buy in bulk, give with dignity, spend them here at Paula's Diner where they stretch farther than fancy charities that eat half in overhead." The crowd murmured. Someone asked, "What's it got to do with us?" Jack's voice deepened, carrying the steady command he used to use with young recruits. "It has everything to do with us. We didn't fight for patches and medals. We fought so people back home wouldn't be hungry, wouldn't be scared. We fought for neighbors." Sophie stepped forward, her voice trembling at first, but gaining ground. "I was one of those neighbors. When my world fell apart, I ate because someone cared. That someone was Jack. Now, I want to pass it on, but I can't do it without you." Silence stretched. Then a man with a gray mustache raised his hand. "Put me down for 20 vouchers. My wife runs the church pantry. She'll make sure they're used right." Another followed, then another. Within minutes, the hall was buzzing not with doubt, but with momentum. Sophie's eyes filled, but this time with something fierce. Hope. As the night wound down, Jack walked her to the truck. The air smelled of damp earth and gasoline. Sophie leaned against the door, looking at him differently now. "You didn't just step between me and him in the diner," she said softly. "You stepped between me and my past. No one's ever done that." Jack shifted uncomfortably, scratching his jaw. "Don't make me a hero. I'm just a guy trying to keep promises." "To who?" she asked. He stared past her, to the dark horizon. "To my daughter. To the people who didn't come back. To myself." Her voice softened. "And now to me." Jack finally met her eyes. He didn't speak, but the silence said enough. By the time he dropped her home, Sophie's mother texted that the motel owner had already been sniffing around, asking questions. Jack clenched the steering wheel. It wasn't over. The country club man wasn't done. But neither were they. Because kindness, when wielded like steel, was stronger than power bought with money. And as Jack drove into the night, Sophie clutching the napkin plan like it was a weapon, he knew this wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning.